Out of abysmal trance, her spirit woke, laying on the Earth Mother's calm and conscious breast. She saw the green-clad branches lean above, guarding her sleep with their enchanted light. And overhead, a blue-winged ecstasy fluttered from bough to bough with high-pitched call. The immense remoteness of her trance had passed. Human she was once more, Earth's Savitri, yet felt in her illimitable change. But soon she leaned down over her love to call. His mind back to her with her traveling touch. On his closed eyelids settled was her still look, a strong delight, not yearning now, but large, with limitless joy, or sovereign last content, pure passionate with the passion of the gods.
Good morning. Last time we finished book 11, but I thought I would just review a little bit the last page or two. So Savitri has encountered the divine being in the heights of consciousness in the supermind, and he has granted her wish to return the soul of Satyavan back to earth. And in that last passage, she descends back to earth, to her physical consciousness from that supramental plane where she was encountering that supreme being. So they've just had a long dialogue through this long canto of book 11. So I'll just reread that last passage. We kind of went through a little quickly last time. So if there's any questions at the end, we can address those. So I'm going to read from the top of page 711. The measure of that subtle music ceased. Down with a hurried swimming, floating lapse, through unseen worlds and bottomless spaces forced, sank like a star the soul of Savitri. Amidst the laughter of unearthly lyres, she heard around her nameless voices cry, triumphing and innumerable sound. A choir of rushing winds to meet her came. She bore the burden of infinity and felt the stir of all ethereal space. Pursuing her in her fall, implacably sweet, a face was over her which seemed a youth, symbol of all the beauty eyes see not, crowned as with peacock plumes of gorgeous hue, framing a sapphire, whose heart-disturbing smile insatiably attracted to delight, voluptuous to the embraces of her soul. Changed in its shape, yet rapturously the same, it grew a woman's, dark and beautiful, like a moon night with drifting star-gemmed clouds, a shadowy glory and a stormy depth, turbulent in will and terrible in love. Eyes in which nature's blind, ecstatic life sprang from some spirit's passionate content, missioned her to the whirling dance of earth. Amidst the headlong rapture of her fall, held like a bird in a child's satisfied hands, in an enamored grasp, her spirit strove, admitting no release till time should end. And as the fruit of the mysterious joy, she kept within her strong embosoming soul, like a flower hidden in the heart of spring, the soul of Satyavan, drawn down by her inextricably in that mighty lapse. Invisible heavens in a thronging flight soared past her as she fell. Then all the blind and near attraction of the earth compelled fearful rapidities of downward bliss. Lost in the giddy proneness of that speed, whirled, sinking, overcome, she disappeared, like a leaf spinning from the tree of heaven, in broad unconsciousness as in a pool. A hospitable softness drew her into a wonder of miraculous depths. Above her closed a darkness of great wings, and she was buried in a mother's breast. Then from a timeless plain that watches time, a spirit gazed out upon destiny. In its endless moment saw the ages pass. All still was in a silence of the gods. The prophet moment covered limitless space and cast into the heart of hurrying time a diamond light of the eternal's peace, a crimson seed of God's felicity. A glance from the gaze fell of undying love. A wonderful face looked out with deathless eyes. A hand was seen drawing the golden bars that guard the imperishable secrecies. A key turned in a mystic lock of time. But where the silence of the gods had passed, a greater harmony from the stillness born, surprised with joy and sweetness, yearning hearts, an ecstasy and a laughter and a cry. A power leaned down, a happiness found its home. Over wide earth brooded the infinite bliss. So Savitri descends from that high plane of consciousness down, back, as we'll see, into her body on the earth, carrying the soul of Satyavan with her, safe from the grasp of death. And we saw as she fell, it describes this being falling with her who appears like Krishna. A face was over her which seemed a youth's, symbol of all the beauty eyes see not, crowned as with a peacock, plumes of gorgeous hue, framing a sapphire, whose heart-disturbing smile insatiably attracted to delight, voluptuous to the embraces of her soul. Right, so right, in the next lines, that face changes from this sapphire, this blue color, changes its shape, yet rapturously the same. Somehow there is still this bliss or divine delight. But it grew a woman's face, he doesn't say. It grew a woman's, dark and beautiful, like a moon night with drifting star-gemmed clouds, a shadowy glory and a stormy depth, turbulent in will and terrible in love.
So what does that mean? This changes.
Yeah, what does that mean? Seems to be two aspects of the divine. One very sweet and beautiful and loving and delightful as Krishna. And here something that carries a darker appearance and quality, that carries also a strong will and force, as Kali does, turbulent in will and terrible in love. So it suggests in this return that something of the divine carries these two aspects with it. It's not all just sweetness and light, it also carries this power and force, and sometimes some kind of maybe terrible appearance.
Yeah, I did not understand because I thought that the face was over her. I thought it was Satyavan's face, but now I understand. It's the face of her.
Well, I'm not sure it's not Satyavan, but he's, whatever face, it's taking on these two different appearances, which are yet two sides of one divinity.
Do you feel, see, all the way through that, there is this phenomena. The bliss is pervading both of them.
Right, yeah.
So that's the overwhelming beauty of the phenomena of the earth that can encompass both these aspects. It seems to resolve it. And Satyavan is in her heart.
In her soul, he says. Mm.
She's going through these planes.
Right.
Other reality soul.
Right. She's carrying Satyavan within her strong embosoming soul, like a flower hidden in the heart of spring. Yeah, I guess I always kind of took it like that these two faces, Krishna and Kali, were aspects of Satyavan, but maybe not, because he describes them as covering her as she's falling, and then here towards the end, he describes Satyavan as kind of hidden deep within her soul. So as you say, she's falling through these planes of consciousness, and these aspects of the divinity are coming over her, or she sees them around her as she falls. Well, I wouldn't say impersonal, because the way he describes their appearances as kind of beings, as faces, so it has a more personal quality with it.
And the lapse is the fall?
Yes, the lapse is the falling. And then the earth is described. A hospitable softness drew her into a wonder of miraculous depths. And then above her closed a darkness of great wings, and she was buried in a mother's breast. Yeah, this is interesting, this closing of these great wings of darkness. It seems to me also that it's kind of describing the earth, the physical consciousness in which she's descending into that, and that enfolds her within it. And then she was buried in a mother's breast. Yeah, the Mother Earth. Yeah.
And then you use that image of a bird and a child.
Mm.
Convey that sense, how much you are cared for, how much you cared for Satyavan, how much you cared for the whole thing. Pulls it together.
Yeah, as you say, he described Satyavan as like a tender bird within her hands. She's drawing him down. So again, like the soul, he represents kind of the soul, and it is descending kind of into the earth with her. So that soul also is enfolded within the physical earth and consciousness.
He's enfolded in spring also.
Mm.
He doesn't describe him as some beautiful blossoming thing. No, the first flower.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also described as the flower, right? Very kind of delicate. But then in this, okay, you have one more.
How the process is to go down, especially with it is also describing the quality of Savitri goes down in broad unconsciousness. That's that it's because in the moments of this, you will think
Yeah, towards the end there, she's as if spinning like a leaf falling from a tree rapidly, world sinking, overcome, she disappeared, like a leaf spinning from the tree of heaven in broad unconsciousness as in a pool. She's coming down from that supramental consciousness, and she's coming back to the earth consciousness, to the physical consciousness. So that may be the reason for this broad unconsciousness spinning down, falling as if into a pool. She loses in a sense, or I don't know if she loses, but the consciousness changes from that supramental poise into the physical consciousness.
That's exactly it. That meaning of the leaf falling, wind to a pool. This is the process of regeneration. It's almost the life cycle. So she's going back into that life cycle on Earth. So this is such a evocative image. And everyone feels the four seasons because all through Savitri, they're really using the seasons. And here we're coming to the end when the leaf falls back, and so we have a spring. Check out the spring flower.
Okay, that's interesting. But I think that idea of cycling is important because she's bringing something down from that supramental plane with her, along with the soul of Satyavan. And so something new is being, let's say, planted in the earth, and some new cycle is going to occur within the earth consciousness. Yeah, so I think like the change of the seasons is an apt metaphor for that, and as he's describing that, like a leaf falling from the autumn leaves, maybe also like the seeds fall into the earth at that time to sprout again.
What is the proneness?
What?
Proneness.
Proneness.
Lost in the judging proneness.
Yeah, prone. it's a kind of, what would you say? When somebody lies prone, they're lying on their stomach flat on the floor. So it suggests this kind of a fall facing downwards. She's falling downwards. So it carries that kind of idea of facing downwards, falling downwards towards the earth. But in that last passage, I just wanted to read from the new paragraph there. Then from a timeless plane that watches time. So there's a shift here in the narrative from this falling to something above that's watching this fall take place. And from there, from that height of consciousness, a spirit gazed out upon destiny. So it's looking down at the earth and its destiny. In its endless moments saw the ages pass. So it sees the whole sequence of time in its gaze of the earth's destiny. And it's watching in this silence of the gods. And then the spirit that's watching cast into the heart of hurrying time a diamond light of the eternal's peace, a crimson seed of God's felicity, a glance from the gaze fell of undying love. Somewhere Sri Aurobindo describes this diamond light that people may sometimes see in visions. And it represents kind of this very intense form of the mother's light. The mother's light normally is white, but this diamond light, it's a very intense form of it. Very carrying a transforming power. So he says, a diamond light of the eternal's peace, a crimson seed of God's felicity, of God's delight, happiness, and a glance from the gaze fell of undying love. Crimson is red, kind of a dark red, a deep red, kind of like, like a red rose can have that kind of a dark red color. Sunset. Sunset color. And then a wonderful face looked out with deathless eyes, and a hand was seen drawing the golden bars that guard the imperishable secrecies. So this seems to be the transcendent being moving aside the bars of the supermind, of the supramental consciousness, so that that light of the supramental consciousness can descend into the earth. And then a key turned in a mystic lock of time. something changes, transforms in the sequence and the passage of time. There is a moment, perhaps, where things change.
So that's the prophet moment that says, the face, your dying love, that's the hand.
Yeah.
It's able to move those little bars,
Yeah.
the secrets. They're all coming with her, because that's part of her mission.
Right.
And you feel the click off
Yeah.
of the door of loving time. So you want to move up or something.
Yeah, it suggests a new age falling upon the earth. Yeah, and it kind of reminds us of what the mother described as what she saw when the supramental light and force descended into the earth consciousness. She was standing before this great golden door, and she took this giant hammer and smashed it, and the golden light and force descended into the earth consciousness. And there's this beautiful painting of that by Preeti. And then, but where the silence of the gods had passed, a greater harmony from the stillness born, surprised with joy and sweetness, yearning hearts, and ecstasy, and a laughter, and a cry. So we see, instead of just that quiet peace and silence, which was, in a sense, the aim of some of the older yogas, and anyway, a profound realization, spiritual realization of the self. But from out of that comes something else, this harmony, this delight, this joy and sweetness. An ecstasy and a laughter and a cry. And then a power lean down. A happiness found its home. And that home appears to be the earth. Over wide earth brooded the infinite bliss.
And what's so significant for me is the surprise. And then it's three things. Ecstasy, laughter, and pride. How do you interpret pride?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it a cry of ecstasy and delight, or of sadness?
Got the ecstasy and the laughter.
Yeah.
Pride's got to be something else.
Maybe that the pain of transformation or something.
Got to be something else.
Like strife, victory, cry of victory. This rejoicing, in a sense.
waters of God in the fountain.
Mm.
Then my victory will fit in because it's talking others' victory is that your victory is harmony.
Oh. He said, Mother's victory is harmony. So yes, it brings this supramental consciousness, brings with it a tremendous harmony, because now everything flows, everything fits together, everything is in its place, every movement is perfect. All the multiplicity works together in harmony. Well, I don't know if I can elaborate any more about it, but just this, that supermind brings a flawless working of the multiplicity. Everything is drawn, or it's based on oneness. But there's still the multiplicity. That's why there's still the laughter and the joy and the cry, and there is all the infinite riches of the multiplicity, but they all are in perfect harmony. So that's the creation that Sri Aurobindo wants to establish here on earth.
That are the imperishable secrecies.
Imperishable secrecies.
But they are perishable.
Yeah.
If it is impure.
Imperishable means they never perish.
Yeah, but now they are going to perish.
No.
They're not secret anymore.
Oh, they're not secret anymore. But they've always been there. They've always been, that supermind has always been existing through all our turbulent ages. It's always been there, but secret to us. We never could ascend into that plane before. Yeah, those golden bars were guarding that, but now they've moved aside. Okay, shall we move on to the epilogue?
You just give a little note why do we switch to law? That's what I don't quite follow. She comes back, describing the 12, is treating it as one of the books. But then it's more how does that work?
Well, I think the main story has been completed. We've reached the climax of the poem where the divine being grants Savitri's desire, wish for the soul of Satyavan to return to earth. And we've seen them descending and falling back to earth. So we've come to a kind of conclusion, but now he's going to elaborate that final, those final moments or on earth, what happens on earth after this descent back to earth. Now what is going to be after this descent of the supermind? But I don't know. I think he has to give a little bit more elaborate finish to the poem. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So shall we start here?
Epilogue, the return to earth. Out of abysmal laying on the earth's mother's down in conscious rest, she saw the green-clad branches being above, guarding her sleep with their chanted light, and overheard the blue-winged ecstasy fluttered from bough to bough with high-pitched call. Into the magic citrusy of the woods, peering through an emerald latticed window of leaves, in indolent skies reclined, the thinning day down to its slow fall into evening's peace. She pressed the living body of Satyavan on her body's bloodless joy to be, and with which she bore the peaceful burden of his head between her breast, warm labor divine. The waking gladness of her members felt the weight of heaven in his limbs, the touch summing the whole felicity of things. And all her life was conscious of his life, and all her being rejoiced and holding lives.
Thank you.
The immense remoteness of her trance had passed. Human she was once more, Earth's Savitri, yet felt in her illimitable change. A power dwelt in her soul too great for earth. A bliss lived in her heart too large for heaven. Light too intense for thought and love, too boundless for earth's emotions, lit her skies of mind and spread through her deep and happy seas of soul. All that is sacred in the world drew near to her divine passivity of mood. A marvelous voice of silence breathed its thoughts. All things in time and space she had taken for hers. In her they moved, by her they lived and were. The whole wide world clung to her for delight, created for her rapt embrace of love. Now, in her spaceless self, released from bounds, unnumbered years seemed moments long drawn out. The brilliant time, flakes of eternity.
Thank you.
Absorbed no longer by the moment's beat, her spirit the unending future felt, and lived with all the unbeginning past. Her life was a dawn's victorious opening. The past and unborn days had joined their dreams. Old vanished eves and far arriving noons hinted to her a vision of prescient hours. Supine in musing bliss, she lay a while, given to the wonder of a waking trance. Half risen then, she sent her gaze around, as if to recover old, sweet, trivial threads, old happy thoughts, small treasured memories, and weave them into one immortal day. Ever she held on the paradise of her breast, her lover charmed into a fathomless sleep, laying like an infant spirit, unaware, lulled on the verge of two consenting worlds.
Thank you.
But soon she leaned down over her loved to call, his mind back to her with her traveling touch. On his closed eyelids settled was her still look of strong delight, not yearning now, but large, with limitless joy or sovereign last content. Pure, passionate with the passion of the gods, desire stirred not its wings, for all was made, an overarching of celestial rays, like the absorbed control of sky on plain, heavens leaning down to embrace from all sides earth. A quiet rapture, a vast security. Then, sighing to her touch, the soft-winged sleep rose hovering from its flower-like lids and flew. Murmurous awake, he found her eyes, waiting for his, and felt her hands and saw the earth, his home, given back to him once more. And her made his again, his passions all.
Thank you.
With his arms encircling, hold around her lot, a living knot to make possession close. He murmured with hesitating lips her name, and vaguely recollecting, wonder cried, "Whence hast thou brought me captive back, love chained to thee and sunlit walls, O golden beam and casket of all sweetness, Savitri, Godhead and woman, moonlight of my soul, for surely I travelled in strange worlds, by thee companioned, a pursuing spirit. Together we have disdained the gates of night. I have turned away from the celestial's joy, and heaven's insufficient without thee. Where now has passed that formidable shape which rose against us, the spirit of the void, claiming the world for death and nothingness, denying God and soul.
Thank you. Let's pause.
Or was all a dream?
Denying God and soul, or was all a dream or a vision seen in a spiritual sleep, a symbol of the opposition of time, or mind-lit beacon of significance in some stress of darkness, lighting on the way, a guiding a swimmer through the straits of death, or finding with succor of its ray in a gully mud the crowded streets of chance, the soul that into the world adventure came, a scout and voyager from eternity. But she replied, our parting was a dream, we are together, we live, O Satyavan. Look around thee and behold, glad and unchanged, our home is this forest with its thousand cries, and the whisper of the wind among the leaves, and through rifts in emerald seen, the evening sky, God's canopy of blue sheltering our lives, and the birds crying for heart's happiness, winged poets of our solitary reign, our friends on earth, where we are king and queen.
Thank you.
Only our souls have left death's night behind, changed by a mighty dream's reality, illumined by the light of symbol worlds and the stupendous summit self of things, and stood at Godhead's gates, limitless, free. Then, filled with the glory of their happiness, they rose, and with safe, clinging fingers locked, hung on each other in a silent look. But he, with a new wonder in his heart and a new flame of worship in his eyes, what high change is in thee, O Savitri? Bright ever thou wast, a goddess still and pure, yet dearer to me by thy sweet human parts, earth gave thee, making thee yet more divine. My adoration mastered, my desire bent down to make its subject, my daring clasped, claiming by body and soul my life's estate, rapture's possession, love's sweet property, a statue of silence in my temple spirit, a yearning Godhead, and a golden bride.
Thank you.
B. Line. But now thou seemst almost too high and great for mortal worships. Time lies below thy feet, and the whole world seems only a part of thee. Thy presence, the hushed heaven I inhabit, and thou lookst on me in the gaze of the stars. Yet art the earthly keeper of my soul, my life a whisper of thy dreaming thoughts, my morns a gleaming of thy spirit's wings, and day and night are of thy beauty part. Hast thou not taken my heart to treasure it? In the secure environment of thy breast, awaken from the silence and the sleep, I have consent for thy sake to be. By thee, I have written my mortal arc of life. But now, for heavens, a mapped infinitude, thou hast brought me thy illimitable gift. If to feel this, thou lift my sacred flight. My human earth will sit demand thy bliss. Make still my life with thee in song of joy, and all my silence wide and deep with thee.
Thank you.
A heavenly queen consenting to his will, she clasped his feet by her enshrining hair, enveloped in a velvet cloak of love, and answered softly like a murmuring lute. All now is changed, yet all is still the same. Lo, we have looked upon the face of God. Our life has opened with divinity. We have borne identity with the Supreme and known his meaning in our mortal lives. Our love has grown greater by that mighty touch and learned its heavenly significance. Yet nothing is lost of mortals' loved delight. Heaven's touch fulfills, but conceals not our earth. Our bodies need each other in the same last. Still in our breasts, repeat heavenly rhythm Our human heart beats passionately close. Still am I she who came to thee mid the murmur of sunlit leaves upon thy forest verge. I am the Madran, I am Savitri. All that I was before, I am to thee still, close comrade of thy thoughts and hopes and toils. All happy contraries I would join for thee.
Thank you.
All sweet relations marry in our life. I am thy kingdom, even as thou art mine, the sovereign and the slave of thy desire, thy prone possessor, sister of thy soul, and mother of thy wants. Thou art my world, the earth I need, the heaven my thoughts desire, the world I inhabit, and the God I adore. Thy body is my body's counterpart, whose every limb may answering limbs desire, whose heart is key to all my heartbeats. This I am, and thou to me, O Satyavan. Our wedded walk through life begins anew. No gladness lost, no depth of mortal joy. Let us go through this new world that is the same, for it is given back, but it is known. A playing ground and dwelling house of God, who hides himself in bird and beast and man, sweetly to find himself again by love, by oneness. His presence leads the rhythms of life that dig for mutual joy in spite of pain.
Thank you.
We have each other found, O Satyavan, in the great light of the discovered soul. Let us go back, for Eve is in the skies. Now grief is dead, and serene bliss remains the heart of all our days forevermore. Lo, all these beings in this wonderful world, let us give joy to all, for joy is ours. For not for ourselves alone our spirits came out of the veil of the unmanifest, out of the deep, immense, unknowable, upon the ignorant breast of dubious earth, into the ways of laboring, seeking man, two fires that burn towards that parent sun, two rays that travel to the original light. To lead man's soul towards truth and God we are born, to draw the checkered scheme of mortal life into some semblance of the immortal's plan, to shape it closer to an image of God, a little nearer to the idea divine.
Thank you.
She closed her arms above his breast and head, as if to keep him on her bosom worn. Forever through the journeying of the years, so far a while they stood entwined, their kiss and passion-tranced embrace a meeting point. In their commingling spirits, one forever, two-souled, two-bodied for the joys of time. Then, hand in hand, they left that solemn place, full now of mute, unusual memories, to the green distance of their sylvan home, returning slowly through the forest's heart. Round them, the afternoon to evening changed. Light slipped down to the brightly sleeping verge, and the birds came back, winging to their nests, and day and night leaned to each other's arms. Now the dusk, shadowy trees stood close around, like dreaming spirits and delaying night. The gray-eyed, pensive evening heard their steps, and from all points the cries and movements came of the four-footed wanderers of the night approaching. Then a human rumor rose, long alien to their solitary days, invading the charmed wilderness of leaves, once sacred to secluded loneliness, with violent breaking of its virgin sleep.
Thank you.
Through the screened dusk it deepened still, and there neared floating of many voices and the sound of many feet, till on their sight broke in, as if a coloured wave upon the eye, the brilliant, strenuous, crowded days of man, topped by a flaring multitude of lights. A great resplendent company arrived. Life in its ordered tumult, wavering came, bringing its stream of unknown faces thronged. With the gold-fringed headdresses, gold-broidered robes, glittering of oneness, fluttering of hems, hundreds of hands parted the forest boughs, hundreds of eyes searched the entangled glades. Calm, white-clad priests, their grey-eyed sweetness brought, strong warriors in their glorious armour shone. The proud hooved steeds came trampling through the wood.
Thank you.
In front, King Tumacena walked, no more, blind, faltering limbed, but his far questioning eye, restored to all their confidence in light, took seeingly this imaged outer world. Firmly he trod with monarch step the soil. By him that Queen and Mother Angie's face came changed from its habitual burdened look, which in its drooping strength of tired toil had borne the fallen life of those she loved. Her patient paleness wore a pensive glow, like evening's subdued gaze of gathered light, departing, which foresees sunrise her child. Sinking in quiet splendors of her sky, she lives awhile to muse upon that hope, the brilliance of her rich receding gleam, a thoughtful prophetess of lilac dawn.
Thank you.
Her eyes were first to find her children's forms, but at the vision of the beautiful twain, the air awoke, perturbed with scaling cries, and the swift parents hurrying to their child, their cause of life now, who had given him breath, possessed him with their arms. Then tenderly cried Tumacena, chiding Satyavan, "The fortunate gods have looked upon me today. A kingdom seeking came and heaven's rays. But where was thou? Thou hast tormented gladness with fear's dull shadow. O my child, my life, what danger kept thee from the darkening woods? Or how could pleasure in her ways forget that useless orbs without thee are my eyes? which only for thy sake rejoice at light. Not like thyself was this done, Savitri. Thou leddest not back thy husband to our arms, knowing with him beside me only is taste in food, and for his touch, evening and morn, I live content with my remaining days. But Satyavan replied with smiling lips, lay all on her. She is the cause of all.
Thank you.
With her enchantment, she has twined me round. Behold, at noon leaving this house of clay, I wandered in far off eternities, yet still a captive in her golden hands. I tread your little hillock called green earth, and in the moment of our transient sun, live glad among the busy works of man. Then all eyes turned their wandering looks where stood. A deepening river gold upon her cheeks, with lower kiss the noble lovely child, and one consenting thought moved every breast. What gleaming marble of the earth of skies stands silently by human Satyavan, to mark a brilliance in the dusk of eve? It is she of whom the world has heard, wonder no more at any happy change. Each easy miracle of felicity or her transmuting heart, the alchemy is.
Thank you.
Then one spoke there who seemed a priest and sage. O woman soul, what light, what power revealed, working the rapid marvels of this day, opens for us by thee a happier age. Her lashes fluttering upwards gathered in to a vision which had scanned immortal things, rejoicing, human forms for their delight. They claimed for their deep childlike motherhood the life of all these souls to be her life. Then falling veiled the light. Lo, she replied, awakened to the meaning of my heart, that to feel love and oneness is to live, and this is the magic of our golden change, is all the truth I know or seek, O sage. Wondering at her and her two luminous words westwards, they turned in the fast gathering night.
Thank you.
From the entangling verges freed, they came into a dimness of the sleeping earth and traveled through her fair, faint and numbering plains. Murmur resist her luminous reign.
Her sleep with her enchanted life, and overhead a blue-winged ecstasy fluttered from bow to bow with high-pitched call. Into the magic secrecy of the woods, peering through an emerald lattice window of leaves, in indolent skies reclined the thinning day, turned to its slow fall into evening's peace. She pressed the living body of Saravanan. She pressed the living body of Satyavan. On her body's wordless joy to be and breathe, she bore the blissful burden of his head between her breast's warm labor of delight. The waking gladness of her members felt the weight of heaven in his limbs. A touch summing the whole felicity of things. And all her life was conscious of his life, and all her being rejoiced enfolding this.
Thank you. So we pause for a minute. Can just So we see in this first line that as she has descended from this supramental plane back to the earth, she was returning to her body from her trance in which all of this had been taking place. So out of her abysmal trance, her spirit woke. She wakes from her trance in which all these encounters with death and with this supreme being have taken place. And now she's back on earth in the forest with Satyavan on her breast where they were when he had passed away. So she's on the Earth Mother's calm, inconscient breast. She's laying on the forest floor. She saw the green-clad branches lean above guarding her sleep with their enchanted life. So the leaves, the branches are hanging over her. And overhead, she sees and hears a blue-winged ecstasy, but it's fluttered from bough to bough with high-pitched call, kind of perhaps a bluebird fluttering through the leaves above. Perhaps it brings to mind a little bit that Krishna, who was she had seen falling, this blue-winged ecstasy is a little bit suggestive of that. But anyway, it's nature, and she's back on earth into the magic secrecy of the woods, peering through an emerald lattice window of leaves. In indolent skies reclined the thinning day, turned to its slow fall into evening's peace. So we're reminded now too, brought back into the moment of time in which he wakes. Satyavan had left his body at around noon, and now the evening is descending. The light of the day is fading, thinning, and evening is approaching. Yeah, the earth mother's calm, inconscient breast. So that inconscient has been the basis, the foundation of our earth, of our life here. It's on that ground, that inconscient ground, from which the evolution has ascended through life. And life here is represented by these green-clad branches, and into mind, and above, into the spiritual consciousness, and finally supermind. But they were established, all of this was established on the earth. The one thing kind of curious to me about this is that with the descent of that supermind consciousness, perhaps the earth will no longer be kind of inconscient, that also that will be enlightened. But he's not saying that here. Perhaps not yet. Perhaps they're waiting still for Sri Aurobindo and Mother to come, that this is kind of an earlier stage or something. But she wakes and she feels the living body of Satyavan. So he has returned to life. On her body's wordless joy to be and breathe, she bore the blissful burden of his head. Between her breasts, warm labor of delight. So it brings it back to their warm embrace in which she held him captive through his descent into death. She was holding him in her breast, followed him in her trance to retrieve his soul. And now she feels his life returned. The waking gladness of her members felt, the weight of heaven in his limbs. A touch summing the whole felicity of things. And all her life was conscious of his life, and all her being rejoiced, enfolding his. There is this close unity of the two souls here. She feels that oneness with him as she holds him on her breast. Yeah, she feels the weight of heaven in his limbs. So something, I think, of that divinity, but also the earth, the physical in his limbs. So she feels the two joined, heaven and earth in his limbs. I think we'll pause there for today. Take it up next time.
Out of abysmal thought, her spirit woke, laying on the earth mother's calm and conscious breast. She saw the green-clad branches lean above, guarding her sleep with their enchanted light. And overhead, a blue-winged ecstasy fluttered from bough to bough with high-pitched call. The immense remoteness of her trance had passed. Human she was once more, Earth's Savitri, yet felt in her illimitable change. But soon she leaned down over her love to call. His mind back to her with her traveling touch. On his closed eyelids settled was her still look, a strong delight, not yearning now, but large, with limitless joy, or sovereign last content, pure, passionate, with the passion of the gods.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.